So, hello, everybody. My name is Annette DeBiz from Keller Williams, Merrimack Valley, right here in Westford, right over in Westford, right down the street. And we're here to answer any type of questions you have for your real estate needs, whether you're selling or buying or thinking of either. Always here, happy to answer questions. We have Angelique Iliopoulos. She's a real estate attorney.
Hi guys, Angelique Iliopoulos. I have a firm in Chelmsford, Mass. with my brother. He's my law partner, Philip Iliopoulos. And I've had the pleasure of working with Annette. We specialize in real estate law and estate planning, so really anything around the house, whether it's selling, buying, and then also planning for the house, protecting the house, powers of attorney to help sign documents for the house, really anything that goes along with it, we can help. So I'm just really here to answer any questions as Annette talks about, preparing for buying and selling. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have as it pertains to legal matters that surround that, or about anything else off subject as well.
So we're going to start our question and answer panel. I actually had left some seller packages, and in here it just shows various forms, different types of forms for selling. We can go over them if you have any questions. There's some information on tips for sellers, preparing for sellers, suggestions, some maintenance checklist, a little bit about myself in here. And if you have any questions, we'll start right now. Okay, so how many people here are thinking of possibly selling within the next few years? Okay, what is your biggest worry or concern or nervousness about thinking about selling?
Clearing out my house.
Right, so that's a major concern for many. So what we try to do is, we always make different types of suggestions. The first thing you want to do is get rid of anything you haven't used in the past few years, anything you think you can part with. I would start one little closet at a time because it can be very overwhelming. So start with the closet, clean out the coat closet, ease your way another day into the kitchen or into the drawers, maybe another day further into the pantry, anything like that. Then go into the pans, anything you think that you don't need, or start with asking your family if that's what you want to do, or if you want to make a little money, we have resources that we can connect you with consignment shops. If you want to donate, we can give you some suggestions on who will take bags of items. Many of them are out there. And other things like that you want to get rid of, maybe like hazardous materials or anything like paints. You want to think about disposing of old chemicals and things like that. And we can help you with that. I can give you ideas on how to get rid of those things. If you're thinking that you want to put the house on the market, but you want to keep certain items, but we know in selling real estate less is more, you can also think about a storage unit if you really wanted to spend that kind of money, or maybe a pod. I've had a lot of my sellers have luck with getting a pod, and they actually put it on the property away from, traffic area, and then you can load it up, and then whatever you're going to end up thinking of downsizing, if you're thinking of going into a small condo or a garden style, whatever you're thinking of doing, then they'll move it right. They'll put it, they can
They'll
even
pick it up,
pick
right.
it up, and they can put it right back over where you're going to unload. So those are the things. The thing is, start small. It is overwhelming. If you think about the big picture, you'll totally avoid it. It's just human nature.
I had a client was telling me that they had a really great idea. They had a chat with their mom, who was, older and thinking about selling and had all this kind of stuff that she didn't want to part with or get rid of, and was thinking, well, someday somebody, someone in the family would have it. And at that point, a lot of the grandchildren and nieces and nephews had homes of their own. And so the talk with mom was, if you give them these like Christmas decorations now, or these pots and pans that you don't maybe need all of them, you can see how much they're going to enjoy them. And mom was really happy about that. She didn't really want to have given it, thrown anything away, but kind of like the idea of giving them to family members that were starting homes of their own that
I want that sentiment.
would love them, yeah, and love them because they came from
Exactly, all
their
the more.
grandmother, their aunt, or whatever.
So that's part of, the big thing. Okay, I have to clean out my house. the next thing is, and one of the things we'll go back and forth between us, is that you want to make sure everyone's on the same page, meaning your significant other, if your children are on the deeds or anything like that, you want to make sure everybody knows what's going on, because as Angelique can kind of give you an idea, get your finances in order, get your paperwork in order. A lot of times people don't realize, and Angelique, you can talk about the deeds.
yeah.
Who's actually on the deed when you want to sell. I had a seller that recently decided he wanted to sell, and he didn't even realize his kids were on the deed. So that was something that was done way back when. He said, well, that was just as a, that was just in case something happened to me. But if they're on the deed, legally, they have rights to opinions, and they do need to be part of the selling process. Angelique, you can.
Yeah, no, I mean, you said that perfectly. I think the idea is, Annette would be able to pull the deed, an attorney would be able to pull your deed anytime and just know that information right up front, and see if there's anything
Yeah, and this particular.
out of the ordinary to be thinking about as you proceed.
This particular deed didn't show on the initial deed. They went back a few layers. Some reason, it was really kind of a different way it was done. So I didn't even realize it, and it was a good thing I had, they had an attorney look through. And it can be emotional, it can be hard. It can be hard for me as an agent, only because I'm dealing with the sellers, and if everyone is not on the same page, or somebody wants the house and the others don't, you have to come to a meeting of the minds and figure out how we're going to resolve this. How's this going to work out? So those are the things that you want to make sure that up front, what your deed is about, who's on your deed, and how you're going to handle that. And, if you need to bring in a realtor to kind of be the cushion, a lot of times we are. But it's best if you can handle that first, and that way, that's the beginning of the process. Getting everyone emotionally ready that you're going to sell the family home or whatever it may be. Because a lot of times, we try to keep everything pretty even keel, and so, because it can be a very emotional time for everybody. And that's our job, is to kind of keep that nice and even. Let's see, the next thing about preparing is, one of the things when you're putting your home on the market is, a lot of times buyers are very interested in your home, but they're also, as we're showing it, you want to think about maintenance items. Is there any tripping hazards? Are there stairs that need to be repaired? Is there any, leaks in the basement or in the roof or in the windows? You want to address all of those maintenance issues as best as you can. If money is tight, we have a seller's disclosure. We have to at least prepare for, we have to disclose, it's full disclosure on defects, because, again, the consumer is protected, and they will end up having an inspection, and they're going to look to either reduce price at that level or have you correct those items. Now, everybody's on a budget. If those are unfixable, then you just have to be prepared that there may be some money that's going to be asked upon to reduce. And, of course, we'll ask for quotes. We'll try to, the best, I think the easiest way a seller can start selling a home is if they can try to get all of their documentation in place, put it in a big binder. So when I go to, or whoever goes to sell the property, a lot of the paperwork is right then and there, as best as you can. We'll make a nice binder. It tells us if you got a new dishwasher, what the warranty is on that, if you just got a new roof, your warranty paperwork on that, new heating system, air conditioning system. Those are just helpful items that are going to come around anyway, because when they have an inspection, they're going to want to know the age of the furnace and the age of the roof and the age of the air conditioning system. And, if there's any pest treatments, if you can keep all your documents in place, that would be great. If you don't have them, it's not, we'll work around it. It's just, those are just helpful items that are going to help down the line. Do anyone, Nicole?
What would you say, for someone selling an older home that maybe they've lived in most of their life, what would you say the average amount people are spending on fixing it up before selling? Is it I know it depends on the house, but like average, like what's the ballpark?
Well, it really does depend. It could be, if it needs a new roof, that's going to be really big money. If it needs a new heating system, that could be anywhere from $400 to maybe $7,500. If it needs You know, I wouldn't, I mean, the roof is a big ticket item that they're going to look for a huge price reduction, and a lot of people get nervous. First-time home buyers, for instance, get nervous. They're putting their funds into buying a home. They don't really have a lot of extra cash to go out and get a new roof on there. So it can really vary. It might be around like $5,000 to $8,000, $8,000. It depends. It really, because I don't really try to go in there in your home and say, okay, you need to put all of this extra work into this home. If you want to sell it as is, we just want to come up with a realistic number that is going to be, you know, we'll market it as priced accordingly. Well, this is why it's priced this way, to accommodate. You may need a new roof or a new heating system, because, you know, the inspector's going to go in there and say, this, you know, it's maybe at the end of its life, the boiler. And that's, you know, they get nervous because they're like, oh, I got to go out and buy a whole new boiler. And what can happen is we can offer them maybe a first, you know, whole house warranty, which can be helpful. It gives the buyer an opportunity to maybe save for a year. And we can work that in. So maybe instead of buying a new furnace, we can offer them, or work together to offer them a whole house warranty, which could be about $800 versus a whole new furnace. That gives them some peace of mind. At times, it depends on the buyer. So we want to have full disclosure. So, you know, if there's items that have been not addressed that are, the big thing are safety issues, electrical issues, plumbing issues, and if there's any type of structural issues or pests. Those are some of the big items. I have a house that's on the market that's actually closing, and it had some major termite damage. Depending on who's coming in with the location of the house and what they're buying the house for, it could be a really tough situation when they find that everything in the sills which are holding the house up are all termite infested. But if they're going to be going in there to maybe knock it down anyway because of the location, that may not be, that wasn't the issue. But it can go either way. You never know what somebody's buying the house to do that for. So if you know that you know your home and you know what is a red flag, you'll want to address that. And if you're just thinking of selling, address it a little at a time. Anything that you can do is going to be helpful, and just save all of those receipts. That'll be very helpful for you. But those are the main items, so the structural, the electrical, the plumbing, heating systems, cooling systems, because those are the things that everybody's looking at, and pests. Yes.
Excuse me. Do you have any experience of sellers, prior to putting their houses on the market, having their own inspection done to see what they need to do?
It's a really good idea. Some people, you know, some people don't want to spend the $400 or $500 to do that, but that's a great idea, because that way you can even offer that inspection report if you wanted to. That's you don't have to. But now, when you share that report, if you were to share that report with the agent, we have to have full disclosure.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be a bad idea to have an inspection.
Yeah.
Because that at least, you know, I think that sometimes inspections can vary slightly because they're like an individual, but I think overall, that's not a bad idea at all. Be probably a worthwhile investment to do that.
Do you have experience with that? People doing that?
I don't get involved in that level, because if they're thinking of selling and they want to pre-inspect or pre-appraise, that's kind of before me. If they ask my advice, I'll be like, if you have the money to do that, and that would make you have your comfort level, then that would be great. I haven't received, my clients haven't received, I think maybe one inspection report, and that was on a house that actually, the people didn't get their financing, but they did share their inspection report, which was very, very kind. They didn't have to do that, and that was nice for the next buyers. But the buyers, most of them still want to have their own inspection anyway, just because, you know, they want their own peace of mind. But it wouldn't hurt. And you could talk with the inspector, too, to tell them, look, I'm thinking of, you know, I'm going to be putting the house on the market. Could you do like a pre-inspection? He might be able to give you some sort of a discount, or maybe not go in as depth.
I was just gonna say, you could ask to probably just look at a couple of the major that you were saying, you know,
Right.
roof, heating, cooling.
Yeah, not doing a full inspection, because they check things like the dishwasher, they'll run the heat, the dishwasher, the oven, the microwave, the washer dryer, if you're including that. And, so you may want to just say, could you inspect my, you could do it that way, where you have the inspector do that, or you could just have them serviced. So if you decide you're going to sell and you want to have your chimney cleaned, keep your receipt. If you want to have your boiler serviced, keep the tag on the boiler. If you buy a new hot water tank or you need a new one, write the date of it right on a Sharpie, write clear on there, and keep the paperwork right near everything, and that way, boom, that's like our dream when we go to an inspection and everything's right there, like, oh, I love this is wonderful. So those are things that are gonna make it easier for you to sell, so that buyer comes, oh, they're confident, they're like, oh, yes, this is great. These sellers really, not that sellers don't take care of their property, but some people don't have the energy to do it at times in their lives, and that just makes it an easier sell, for the buyer. Anybody else? Question? All right, so I had, thanks, Nicole.
So we were talking about selling, but as far as buying, a lot of people that I've spoke to are thinking of going from a private home to like a condo or an apartment or even like a smaller home.
Yes.
What do you think people should be looking for as far as going from like the downsizing process? What should they be looking for in a smaller home if they have never lived, in like a condo with home, the
Sure.
keys and all of that?
Sure, so if you're not even right away thinking about selling, but thinking about possibly buying, or maybe you're fortunate enough to be able to say, I'm not gonna sell right away, but I'm gonna buy, you would wanna talk to someone, a real estate professional, that's gonna help you. For yourself, you wanna say, okay, what am I looking for? Or what are we all looking for? If you're with, a husband, a significant other family members, so I'm going to go from a big home or into maybe a townhouse or a garden-style condo. Do I have pets? What type of pets do I have? That's a big one. Do I have a little dog that I'm going to be able to downsize into a place that has smaller animals, that only allows small animals? What location? What do I need services? Do I have to think about services in the future? Do some of these places have the ride? Some of them are starting. There's a lot of 55 and older communities that are pretty nice. I just have sellers that are going into a 55 and older community in North Reading. They're excited as ever. Underground parking. They don't have to worry about the snow removal. So those are the things. What I would do is like try to either talk to a real estate agent of getting on, and you're not obligated, getting on their searches for those type of properties, and then you look at them online, see if they appeal to you, and then if you can get out and drive around or have an agent talk with you about those, what does it look like? Sometimes online it looks wonderful and it may not appeal to you when you're actually there in person. How far away? Where are your doctor appointments? Where are your children if you want to be near your children? You want to think of all of those things. What pets do they allow? If you have pets that are dear to you, you're not going to want to go to a condo that doesn't allow under 25-pound dog if you have a 60-pound animal. And a lot of people don't think of that right away, or they do, but then they're brokenhearted because they love a certain property and, they want to comment. They're getting more lenient on some of these things because I'm an animal lover myself. I mean, they understand that's very healing and to have pets and things like that. And it may not be something that, the other thing too is if you're thinking about, your mobility, does it have, a lot of them do, but you want to think about what type of setup. There's certain townhouses that there's so many stairs that they don't have a first floor master. And you might want to think about those types of things. And I actually work with a lot on 55 and older, and not even just other townhouses. So you want to talk to someone that has experience with townhouses or any type of downsizing. And maybe you don't want to live in a unit. There's townhouses with the individual garages, and then there's townhouses without garages that you do have to clean the snow yourself. And then there's also single-family units that are almost like a single-family home, and the price is sometimes that way also. And they're really nice, but they usually have a first-floor master, and they'll have bedrooms upstairs. And then you just want to think about the rules and regulations. So if you have an adult child that you want to live with you, A lot of times they'll allow that, we just have to check the rules and regulations and see, do they allow grandchildren to sleep over? Some do, some will only allow so many nights, and some are more lenient on all of that.
So something we'll do too as part of on the legal side of it, once you get, if somebody puts in an offer, we'll add language in the purchase and sale agreement or the offer if we get to it, at that stage, to allow us to check certain things in the condo docs. So mostly what we're looking at for the attorney's perspective is, obviously, we want to put in the document what the condo fee is so that it's representative, and then if it turned out to be more than that, it would give you some protection to not have to buy the property. Same thing with assessments. We want to know if there's any major assessments coming up. If there are assessments already due, we want the seller to pay them typically before the closing happens so that the buyer doesn't inherit those. If it's something that's coming up in the future, that's always by negotiation at the time. A seller may not want to pay that because it's not going to be something they're benefiting from. It might be something the buyer's benefiting from, but we don't want anyone to be surprised. In other words, it can go either way. And something we always look at is the budget. We want to at least take a peek at the budget of a condo and make sure that they've got enough in reserves to cover something, major if it came up. And as part of the title search, we'll look at the condo docs, the master deed, and the declaration of homestead, the declaration of trust for the lender, for the title company, to make sure that that they're properly done.
On your sheet here, number 1, price it right. Now, tell me about how you do this, pricing it right.
So, the way that the market works is that it pretty much prices itself. So when you are asking for a market analysis, we're taking comparable properties in your town, square footage, bedrooms, bathrooms. We come in to look because it'll be based on, hardwood floors, granite, how old is your kitchen, flooring, all types of things like that. And so so if I have a seller that wants to price it $60,000 over asking, if the market doesn't warrant that, of course, I'm here to obey. We'll price it. When we say to price it right, I can give a suggestion of a range. And then if they still want to price it at the top level, you want to have a meeting of the minds to say, well, look, we'll price it for that price, even though I'm suggesting maybe $20,000 less. After 2 weeks, if you do not get any offers, let's have an agreement that you're going to drop the price $10,000. And you may have to drop it in $10,000 increments. If you price it right, you're going to have more of an opportunity. It also depends on seasonally. The real estate market does run in seasons. So if we're going into the holiday season, which we are, we still want to price it pretty right because you're not going to have as many people come Thanksgiving. Things do kind of settle down. But we do have people that we know that are looking for first-time home buyers and that are home. And the thing is with pricing it right is you have to think about appraisal. Even if Mr. Seller wants to sell it $20,000 over and that buyer is not if they're putting under 20% down, they're going to have an appraisal in there, and the appraiser's going to come out and ask to come in and look at the property. He'll make his judgment. He'll do a report. That comes back $20,000 under what you want to get for it. You have to make a decision. The buyer's not going to buy it for less, for over market
They may not be
value.
able to because
And they wouldn't- right.
I think what you're trying to say too is
Right.
that they're not going to get a loan, that their bank's not going to
Loan.
lend them money on a property that they're trying to pay more than it's worth for.
So when we say price it right, you want to price it realistically, because everyone, springtime came and there were many people priced their houses at a certain, there were many ways of pricing. You could price it a little lower and try to get a bidding war going. That's a lot of, that's a lot to do too, and I mean, that might be a great idea to do in the springtime when everyone's looking to get into properties before the next school season hits. It depends on your timing. If you're not in a hurry, and, and I've had many sellers that don't want to drop the price, and they're sitting on it, and why is it it's not selling? Well, there's a lot of factors involved. This particular one was price and showings. The other things you're going to think about is showings. How is this going to inconvenience you? Are you okay with us having an open house on the weekends? So that's one of your top ways, of course, of doing things. Are you okay with having showings maybe from this time to this time? mainly people like to look at properties after work. As the daylight savings time comes, it's a lot harder to look at a property when it's pitch black, so we don't suggest that. And you're not going to want to go out at that time, possibly, too. So, between pricing it right and just all the little, there's all little small factors involved in getting your house sold.
This is sort of unrelated, but it just reminded me, and a step I'm never really part of, but if you were thinking of putting a house on a market and it was going to be closer to the winter time, for whatever reason you wanted to get on before the market, it's a good time to think about taking pictures now while things are beautiful. You don't want to be putting your house on the market in January and trying to take a picture of your house to put on MLS with, 4 feet of snow covering it. Do you know what I mean? So even if you're not ready, I would say it's never too early to reach out to somebody. And same as a buyer. I mean, even if you're not ready quite to sell, but you want to start looking, I think it's never really too early to start seeing what's out there for purchasing, start talking to someone to see what are the steps you can put in place, even if you're not ready, because you have to think about things like emptying the house or taking the pictures or getting things organized or, whatever the case is.
True, and some
the more time you have, the better sometimes.
Exactly, and some people do a non-MLS listing. It's only really good for about 3 months. But let's say you're thinking of putting a house on the market in January. We can come out and get at least a front photo of the property and start marketing it. We do something called a non-MLS listing. So it's a special form. It does commit you to listing in the future. So you get the non-MLS form, which says, I'm giving Annette permission to start marketing the house. I'm able to put a sign out on your lawn. It says coming soon, so everyone can see it. And they'll start calling me. And then I can say to you, once you have that form filled out, plus a listing form, say you're really not going to go live until usually it's about 30 to 60 days or 90 days that we're able to do a coming soon. At least we can start getting interest. And sometimes I had a home in Littleton that I had a coming soon sign, and we got it sold before it even went live. So it was nice because we didn't have to have an open house. They didn't have to feel stressed out. All I had to say is, I have someone who is interested. Are you available can I come in? We had no lockbox on the house or anything. It's like, oh yeah, we'll go out. You can come in and show it. We got under agreement within a day or two of the sign going up. So it was kind of nice. It was less stress. It's not how everybody likes to do it, but it's, it all depends on you and what your time frame and what you're able to cope with. Because it is stressful sometimes to get it all ready. Yes, Nicole?
If someone's looking to sell, down the line, 5, 8 years down the line, and they want to start doing little things to the house before they even think about selling, other than decluttering, what are the main things people are looking for when they're buying a house? If you're not wanting to redo the whole kitchen or redo the bathroom, huge things like that, but what are little things around the house that they can do, a couple of years in advance of selling? Are there things that people are really looking for now in houses?
So people, depending on what's going on in the trend, and that, people look at some magazines. There's some flooring out there. If you have a linoleum floor right now that was years and years old, there's some really nice materials out there. That's linoleum, that's in the roll, that's very cushiony, that you can get a big, it looks like wood. So it's a wood look. If we can give you suggestions, you can bring a realtor in to get some ideas of what would help you. 8 years is a long time, so the trends could change. Yeah. So that's long. If you're thinking in the next few years and you're going to replace your floor, but you're not looking to sell right away, you get some suggestions. You could even just going to Home Depot and go looking at the rolls of flooring that's out there. Look at the tile that they're selling right now. That'll tell you what's going on in the marketplace. Right now, people love the linoleum look is good. People really do like hardwood, not necessarily in the kitchen, but they have these linoleum planks now that are really kind of neat. And there's a lot of really interesting. You go to some open houses. You don't have to necessarily, when you go to the open houses to take a look and see what people have, you do have to give your name, and you'll go on everyone's searches, and they'll be calling you, or I'll give you my card. You can put my name down if you like, and you can just use a realtor name, and that way you could say, oh, this is my agent, and then they might call me, they might, oh, yeah, don't worry about it, yeah, she's looking around. And at least you get ideas of what's out there. A big thing is, there's a lot of different styles that are out there, but the Pottery Barn look is really big, the grays are big right now. People like upgraded kitchens, but you have to go full-blown, no. You could have some resurfacing done. Sometimes if you have the older kitchens that are all the natural wood, sometimes paint and new fixtures will do it.
That's what I was gonna say, a fresh coat of paint.
Yeah, that always works.
It makes things look nice and
Yeah, my daughter bought a
fresh.
house, and we did all of that. We went out and bought butcher block, pulled up all the Formica, and just went to IKEA and bought butcher block. It was really hard and heavy, but it can be done. It was-
power washing the outside,
Power-
like just like sort of facelift type stuff that's not, you're not maybe gutting and changing anything, but just making sure that what's there looks the best that it is.
Have the rugs cleaned. If the kitchen, make sure that your bathrooms are, any stains on carpeting, or, you can, fresh coat of paint. Make sure that your trim is not, damaged. Make sure your kitchen, your tiles, if you have tile anywhere, anything that's cracked, replace those. Little things like that. A lot of times, even if you can't have your floors refinished, if they're wood floors, Murphy's Oil Soap works wonders. Things like that, shiny, clean, bright. People are looking for those types of things. Your sinks, your stainless sinks, just clean them with really good cleaner. Things like that. Make sure that your screens are clean. Make sure that the tracks in your sliding doors are clean, and that there's no broken glass anywhere. And just overall, just small maintenance items that you can think of. It's worth having have your grandkids or someone do some landscaping for you. Have them cut the grass. That's a big thing, because sometimes there's a lot of brush that's not, you don't want to have any tripping in the yard, things like that. It's better for you anyway, and you'll feel good about it. Any questions on anything else?
When do you think is the best time to put your house on the market?
So, if you put your house on the market anywhere now before Thanksgiving, it isn't a bad time to. Of course, everyone talks about spring, but the other thing is, come January, people are starting to think, hey, we're going to have to, we're thinking of buying. I would say you want to beat that spring market, because there is a lot of competition in the spring.
And the spring market starts
Starts
earlier than the spring.
like
I
March.
think, right, yeah.
The phones start ringing in March. People start preparing, they start getting everything ready.
In March?
In March, usually February, March. They'll start making calls around February. Sometimes I'll get calls, a lot of times during the holiday seasons, because people are home on vacations and they're starting to get that bug in there. They're thinking. So the wheels are starting to turn. And then as we get really close to the holidays, it slows down a little bit more. But I do find, I'm busy all year round, so it's been kind of really interesting, because I've been very fortunate like that. I think you will have, everyone thinks about spring, but I would say even think earlier than the actual spring date.
There are people always that have to move at different times of, year. There might be less out there for them to choose from, at a slower,
Well, and you have to think.
traditionally slower time. But to your point, we have people buying
All
the day
year
before
round.
Christmas, the day before New Year's. We have closings all year, every week, 52 weeks a year, so.
And you have to think about what's good for you, because if you want to sell, but you're going to go out there, we want to think about your safety. If you're moving and you're walking in the snow, is that going to be okay for you? Because I think about my clients too, and especially, it depends on your situation. If you are, do you want to pack your car up in the winter? Do you want to pack it up? If we might have a clear winter, it's all good, but you never know how the weather's going to turn. So you want to think of what's your personal preference of how you want to handle yourself in a moving situation. So I would say, the best, spring and fall. Early fall is always very good. I've got a house coming on the market next week, so really, it's all personal preference. There is always somebody buying, depending on where your location is, your home. You will get a buyer. It's just, there's all these little factors involved. Price, location, what you've done to the home, and if you couldn't do things to the home, price is huge. So we want to have a meeting of the minds and talk about what's going to be a best number that's going to work to get your house sold. Let's see, what else? I have left you some preventive maintenance. This is from an actual inspector, so this has been very helpful. It kind of gives you kind of some details about in the spring for the grounds, the foundation, if you have
I should take this for my own house.
yeah, you could have a copy of that. And this is very helpful. This is actually Housemaster. He had given me this, your electrical, make sure there's no loose wires and things like that. Just, you don't want fire hazards. This gives you a list of everything, which, sometimes we don't think of. What's in your attic? What's up there? If an inspector goes up there and takes a look, we're going to have any critters up there, so it's good to take a peek at that and see what, check during the seasons. Sometimes we have critters that come in as it gets colder, so have some preventive maintenance on those types of things. Sorry. No, that's okay. This is a very, very intense list, which is kind of good. It came right from an inspector, so that's kind of helpful. These are all suggestions. If you, ever want to sit and go over anything, we'd be happy to. The top 12 tips for sellers, we have price it right. Let's have some curb appeal is real. So a lot of times people, this is a generation right now, too, of people that do everything online. So photos are a lot. And then they go and I'll say to my buyers, okay, buyers, do me a favor, drive by, because it looks wonderful. Oh, I don't have time, so let's just go look at 5 properties. Well, then we pull up and they're like, oh, I don't like the location. So I really try to tell them to drive by first, because that also saves their time, because if they're trucking around kids or whatever, trying to save time. So curb appeal. So I bring that up because curb appeal is real. So if it's depending on the season, put a little mum out on the porch. Make sure you rake your leaves. Don't leave the leaves all winter long. If you're thinking of selling in the spring, try to get your leaves raked up this fall, because they're going to still be there in the spring. And then, you want to give, we have photographers that come out, you want to have really good curb appeal. A beautiful house is a beautiful house, and they can adjust it in a way. So, but curb appeal is real. So if you can put you can have decorations, but I went to do photos for a family, and it was Halloween time, and there was an enormous black spider, fake spider, right in the front porch. I'm like, so luckily my photographer was able to take it out of the photo, but I didn't even think that they would have left that on there, so it was kind of funny. And we were able to get the spider webs. We didn't want to take the spider webs off all the bushes and for the little kids to be upset, but I was like, oh, I didn't think of that, and so they didn't think of it, so, they didn't want to take anything off, so he was able to Photoshop that out, thank goodness. But, those are the kinds of things we have to think of, and nobody wants to take photos in January of Halloween decorations either, or have to deal with the day that the photographer is coming, that I'm going to get out there, and I'll remove the Halloween decorations. I don't want to upset anybody, so I'll always ask first. So those are the types of things. Just want to, if you have a beautiful flowering tree, and it flowers now, or if you have photos of that, take photos of that and then give it to the realtor. Those will always be helpful, that you can show your garden when it's at its peak. Take the pictures. If you have any from the past, you can always share those. Because those are nice, those are really nice things that will be appealing. If they bloom every year, that's a selling item. So that's something we can add in the listing. So again, designed to sell based on the current market. Know your audience. Know your audience means, we can let you know who's out there. I can tell you who's out there, who's looking to buy, what are they looking for. And of course, everyone's looking for granite, everyone's looking for hardwood throughout the house. And it really, and again, sometimes first-time buyers are not always looking for carpeting, because children have allergies these days, but you're not going to rip out the carpet to put hardwood. And I wouldn't suggest that, because you don't know who's going to walk in. We don't have a crystal ball to know who that buyer is going to be. And I don't want to see you spend more money than you have to get the house ready. If there's certain things, if the carpet is really not in great shape, then I'd suggest putting another carpet in, or maybe putting a linoleum look wood flooring in. I would like to see you, depending on your home and the presentation of your home, if you have a really, everything in your house is high-end and high quality, and you want to, and you're able to replace certain things, then of course, that's a great thing to do, because you're gonna, we're gonna showcase it at its best feature. If you have, again, all the necessary repairs, Title V, if you have town water, town sewer, or if you have a well, we want to talk about inspections of those things, because in order to pass any house that needs, and Angelique can elaborate on that, you're going to have your septic system checked. We need to have a Title V done. You have to have someone come in, check it, make sure that it's running properly, that it passes, because we need the appropriate paperwork for passing, for when a house comes to pass to the next buyer. And
Yeah, I always love it as an attorney, especially in the buyer side, if that happens before. I've had many closings where people are trying to do, the seller's trying to get the Title V passed or fixed during the period of purchase and sale to closing, and it either gets held up, or the closing gets pushed off, or we have to do a holdback because the work's not done, or it's winter time, so they can't get it into the ground. If you're thinking of selling, you should get your
Title V done
Get your
now.
Title V, know that it's passed, and that's a selling point as well, that you can offer that passing inspection to the buyer, and it's.
How long is it good for?
I think they're good for, I think.
It can, it can also happen after the closings of the law says, but the problem is that the lender wants it to be done, and every lender is different, right? So, we have one now that the closing is in mid-October. It's iffy if it's gonna be done, even though the law says it could happen within so many months of closing. The lender's gonna require it to be done before the closing happens, so that just puts a little bit of a delay on it.
Now, to get the Title V, do we contact the town to help us with it? How do we do that?
There are contractors out there, and I have names.
Yeah,
And
the
we-
realtor will help
yeah, we
orchestrate
can-
that.
Yes, you can get a septic company out there to do the Title V,
Yeah.
and they'll
The only
have,
thing that worries me is that, what if they say, oh, you need new septic when you really don't?
well, he's got to pinpoint what part of the
Yeah.
septic. It's not just a whole new septic. Is it the leach field? That's not,
They don't, I just worry about them wanting to get my business, and so they say there's something wrong when there's not.
Yeah, I have not had that in
I
my
haven't
experience.
either.
Most
We
come
don't
back
have that.
as passing, and it's not a
You can
problem.
also have an engineer
Hmm?
do
you
it.
could.
Civil, you can have an engineer come and do it, and then he doesn't install, so you don't have
Yeah.
to.
Right, but he does charge good money to come out. That's
Yeah.
the only tough
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
charges a lot, maybe more than what it would
Yeah.
take.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I do have a nice guy, but.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. In my
I know.
experience, that's not been a problem.
Right, because it could be just the D, a lot of times it's the D box that holds the solids that needs to be replaced more than the leach field, but it really depends on that. So when you'll see properties that say, if it's a distressed property or a buyer to be responsible for the Title V, that throws a curveball in on a lot of buyers, because they don't have the money to even think about doing that, and that scares them.
Or their lender won't allow
Or
it.
the lender won't allow it, that's right. That's right, so, and then the other thing too is, were permits pulled when you did work? So if you have a house that maybe your significant other, I can do this, just make sure, it depends on what type of work that he did. Did you put in a bathroom? And now, in the public records, it might say you have one full, one half, but you have actually now two full baths. Was that actually, were permits pulled? Was that brought to the attention of the town? Because sometimes buyers, depends on the buyer, they're gonna be pretty savvy. I have one that just, they had contract work done with reputable contractors, but the contractors didn't get back to us to say that they actually pulled permits, and the town didn't have them on record. So the buyer was nervous and said, I'm not gonna buy this house because I'm too nervous. I don't want to take that responsibility. Of course, we have all the paperwork from the contractor, but they never recorded anything over at the town. So this particular buyer got nervous. That's probably 1 in 10 buyers that would actually have the knowledge of thinking about permits.
Yeah, but we'll put in, when we represent buyers, we'll put into our purchase and sale agreement that the seller's making a representation that that's the case, that they haven't done any work without permits, or that they've closed out any permits. And if the seller won't agree to that through themselves or through their attorney, then we'll send our buyers down to town hall to double check. So,
And that's what we had. Our buyers, we didn't have any and the seller wasn't willing to,
Yeah.
the work was done a little older, later, so, and he wasn't willing to, they said they couldn't inspect either. So that was up to the buyer, do you want to take a chance and buy it? And there were no issues with the inspection, and a lot of buyers are like, that's fine, I'll just buy the house. This particular one, he didn't want to take a chance. He's a little more savvy, so, he was nervous, and I didn't blame him. I said, don't worry about it. We go next, we find the next one that's more comfortable. So that's something you want to think about, because if you did have work done, you really want to make sure you
Yeah.
have that.
I was just going to jump in and say, I keep giving these examples of when we represent buyers. When we're representing sellers on the seller side, we're going through that same process. So if we see a buyer's addendum that has that, so this happened, at a closing where the sellers didn't have an attorney reviewing their purchase and sale agreement, and they agreed to this language about the permits, having everything done properly, and then 2 weeks before closing, it came out that that wasn't the case, and the deal almost fell apart. Now, if that had been discussed and disclosed, probably wouldn't have been an issue in the beginning, but as a seller, you really want to know what it is you're agreeing to. The standard purchase and sale agreement is standard, but both attorneys, or even if buyers have to have an attorney because most of the time, someone has to do the closing. So either they have a lender, or if it's a cash deal, there still needs to be someone kind of conducting the closing. Sellers, most of the time, have attorneys, but they don't have to, because all they really need to do is, if they have an agent to prepare the purchase and sale agreement, they have a deed that the closing attorney could prepare. Again, we don't recommend that. It's one of your biggest transactions. You should have legal counsel representing you, but mostly to review that purchase and sale agreement. So when buyer's addendum comes over and you're making a number of representations, that you know what you're signing, what you're agreeing to, what you're on the hook for.
Exactly. And you want to read those documents very carefully. I put in copies of some documents. If you have a home, I did the exclusive right to sell, just so you could take a look at it and see what we ask. And you can, if you have any questions, you can always even text or email me. You have my contact information, you have Angelique's contact information. Another big thing is lead paint. So lead paint, you have an older home before 1978. You want to make sure that, if you have any knowledge of lead paint, a report, if you had it mitigated, it's very important that you read this complete package, because, there is a form that's mandatory that everyone has to sign, and we want to make sure that people can definitely buy a home, and maybe Angelique, you can elaborate on that. If they have young children and it has lead paint,
Under 7, yeah.
they can still buy a home with lead paint in it, right? They just have to be, they're
You have to mitigate, if it's kids under
have to
7.
mitigate.
yeah.
So if their child comes back and has lead paint poisoning, the pediatrician, they'll demand that child gets removed from the premises immediately. And that's very serious. So want to make sure that that's taken care of. So if you have, what's a suggestion for anyone that has an older home that might have lead paint? You might want to take care of that before then have an issue, because that'll open up your group of buyers that will come in. You can definitely still sell it, it's just people with young children will probably pass, because it's, that's a serious thing. So, and something like that, you might want to have a lead paint inspector come in, and he can test all the surfaces that would have to get taken care of. So that part on lead paint is really important if you have an older home. So again, on these 12 tips for sellers, again, you prepare for photography, open houses, showings. You want to make sure that when somebody is in your home to look, that I had a couple that always used to put all their pairs of shoes up the side of the stairway. So I went to do the open house, and I went over everything, and they said, what do you mean? I thought that would look really cute, that all our shoes are on the stairs. And I said, it's a really big tripping hazard. You're going to have people coming in and out. So, we go over I'll go over everything, but you want to make sure you put anything you don't need, put away. And
I'm sorry, I
Go
didn't
ahead.
interrupt you,
No.
it just to that point, I think often people who own the home, I would think that about my own home, that my traditions in my home are so compelling or, charming or whatever. The truth is, people want to picture themselves in your home. So your family pictures, as an example, to some people, it's hard for them to visualize themselves buying your home, even if you have these beautiful family portraits. So often, I think we'll, and again, I'm not really involved in this step, but that you will often say a lot of the, like knickknacks and even beautiful family photos and things that you do in your home, like the shoes and stuff, you really want to clear that out. So people have an opportunity to come in and imagine their family picture in that home, or their, whatever their tradition is,
are,
that they're gonna do.
Less on the countertops, I could never sell my home right now because
God.
I have a lot of things on my countertops, but that would change, and, those types of things. I have a kitty cat that sits on a windowsill, so I would definitely have to resand some of those windowsills and refinish those, because we don't want people to have to deal with any of that, because they come in there, buyers are looking for a way to have a price reduction. So you want to, not that that's a bad thing, everyone's looking, and that's a smart shopper. The thing is, you want to have your home as pristine as you can. And and I mean, you do the best that you can. You don't have to light 5 candles on the day of the open house, which I've had that too. And we
Bake
want-
the cookies, isn't that some
I mean, the
things
cook-
I've heard?
And that's cute, and that's very nice. We do, I do a spread, and the reason why I do that is a lot of times when people come into open houses, they're like, oh, I don't even want to sign in. Well, you have to sign in, but it's not like I'm going to bite you or anything. Let's have a cookie, have something to eat, and it brings a relaxation of, well, what are you looking for? Of course, we're there to sell your home. A lot of times they're coming in, some are just curious. You have your neighbors coming in, there's not much you can do. Don't think of it as your neighbors are a bad thing either, because your neighbors might have kids that want to come into the neighborhood and live near them. So a lot of people say to me, don't let my neighbor in. Well, I can't do that. I have to let the neighbor in. So, look at it as a positive thing. It's a showcase your home as best as you can to your ability, financially, emotionally, physically, whatever things that you can do, and you'll get it done. Just do a little at a time and have a game plan, and if you need advice, we're here to help any way that we can. And the next thing would be also, it's a good thing to think about is not all buyers are created equal. So some people will go for the highest bidder. So that doesn't necessarily mean that buyer is going to be the best buyer. You have to look at their financials, which is what we do, who they're lending, what are they putting down. And Angelique, you can elaborate on some of that more.
I mean, we've had sellers accept offers based on a letter that the buyer, that is not the highest offer, but that the buyer wrote a compelling letter, that their family is going to move in and, love the neighborhood, et cetera, and have had less appealing terms on paper and have been accepted, so.
It's
I mean,
true.
It's really,
It's true.
depends, every situation's unique, obviously.
Yeah, and sometimes you do have these, especially in the spring, you see these bidding wars, and who's going to eliminate the inspection? Oh, I'm not going to have an inspection because I want the house, and that'll be better. I'm not going to do appraisal. I don't suggest to my buyers to not have inspections, because I think that's a scary thing, to buy a house without knowing what they're buying. As a seller, I would never tell a buyer that, if it's from another, especially if it's from another agent, I wouldn't suggest any of that. And that's the other thing about dual agency. Don't normally do dual agency. If I'm representing you, I cannot represent a buyer to the same ability, and I wouldn't do that. It's like a conflict of interest. So I would either refer it out to a colleague. If somebody came into my open house and said, I want to put an offer in on this now, I could do limited services to that person, but I would talk to you about it first. Or I'd say, I'll refer you to a colleague of mine and have that colleague do the offer, so we can not battle it, but again, I want to be fair. The duties are to you as the seller first, not to that buyer. So if they're not represented, they want to put an offer in. But we talk about that in the listing agreement ahead of time anyway, and we talk about what are the scenarios that can happen, and what is our game plan for you. Some people say, oh no, definitely don't take on the buyer. And I'll also have a person in place that I'll say, if I get somebody to walk into the open house without being represented, I'm going to call you. Okay, and then we work that out. And, but my duties are to you. They don't know like you might say, let's price it at this, but I'll take down to this. That never gets repeated. They never are to know any of that information. That's between you and me, and that's how it always should be. So that way, we still give you the right, because a lot of times, see, when you accept an offer, someone might say, hey, what did it go for? Can't tell you that it didn't close. That buyer might not get their financing, and if that happens, goes back on the market, and if that person said, oh, if somebody said to that person, oh, yeah, they accepted like 380, and it went back on the market, you still might not want to sell it for 380 next time around. You might decide to fix some things up and keep it at the listing price, which might be 400,000, and that person might think well, you accepted 380 before. None of that can ever be revealed. They'll find out when the house closes, how much that sold for. So just so you're kind of aware of that, there's no discussions of that at all to anybody. When you confide in your realtor, that's an oath we take for confidentiality, just so you know. Does anyone have any questions about any of that? No? Okay. And so, what else? And the other thing is just read your contracts carefully. You have any questions about anything, I can answer them. I know Angelique mentioned something about, I don't get involved in preparing any purchase and sale, because I leave that to you, you attorneys that went to school for all of that. And we're kind of trained at Keller Williams to, I only take on what I can be responsible for, and I'd rather you have that legal talk with an attorney. That's why it's very important to be represented by an attorney, because, they're an advocate for you as well as I am for the home part, overstep my boundaries and try to do legal work, because that's not my forte.
Yeah.
So, and Angelique's the best.
I have a question. If you're thinking of selling your house, but not, this year, maybe next year, is it okay to approach a realtor to see what's in the area because say you're interested in a condo or you're interested, is it okay to go looking just to see what's available in your area?
Of course, it is. And if an agent pressures you in any way, then that's not the right person for you. So this process, and I have people that I've worked with for 2 years.
I was going to say, she's the best one for, because
I'm patient.
That's great. It's a wonderful, because you sometimes don't want to put your house on the market until you know what might be out there for you. So you want an agent like Annette who's going to take, who enjoys really, and over time forming a relationship, and not just someone who's going to just send you MLS listings and like you said, try to rush you or pressure you. You want to be able to take your time.
You want to feel that person out. You want to really just, you have the right to call an agent and say, look, I want to talk with you, and then maybe we could have coffee and, whatever, and then just feel that person out. And it doesn't hurt to talk to a few. Make sure that the personality fits. I just had one close on a mobile home, actually, and he actually said to me, I really feel bad. You've been working with me for 2 years, and I've been driving you crazy. I said, no. The way I look at it is every property that I look at is educating me, because no two homes are ever alike. No two properties are ever alike. And last year, he asked me to sell his sister's homes because I was patient. And I very much appreciated that. And now I'm sad that actually he closed, because I'm like, what am I going to do? But they're actually buying other things later. So I said, what do you mean I'm not going to talk to you this week? So he'll text me every so often. But you want to develop somewhat of a friendship, because it's personal. You get involved, we get involved whether we want to or not. We get to know, oh, my kids drive me crazy, I got to do this. And Nick, can you come and get this paperwork? And they're in their pajamas still. And I'm like, I'm not going to look. Just, and you want that comfort level, even though it is professional, it does become a friendship. And hopefully it's a long-term friendship, because I don't discard my clients after we're done. I like to keep in touch any way that I can, whether it's Facebook or sending cards and letters, and hope that, it's a friendship that lasts. We all get busy with our lives and things happen, which is understandable, but it's a big thing. It's a personal, it's a relationship business. And that's what I'm try to create my business on, my individual business within Keller Williams, is I want to have a big relationship business. And that's what I'm trying to do, to enjoy this world of real estate and help people give good customer service, because as we both know, it's hard today. Sometimes we don't get the best customer service in every forum, whether we get a cup of coffee or not sometimes, right? So That's it for me.
Thank you both for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Reach out anytime with questions.
Anytime with questions, okay? We're only a text or a phone call or email away, whatever your comfort level is. That's the other thing we try to communicate, anyway, that today, a lot of the young